Call the meeting to order. I'm calling the meeting to order of Community Preservation Committee. This is Wednesday, August 2nd. I'm going to read the remote participation. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberation through adequate and alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID number of 840-0877-2826 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting during the business hours. All right, Barry is having trouble logging in and Beth is waiting to be let in.
Oh, she's in.
There you are. Okay, I'm sorry, I was reading, so I got the texts back. All right.
Colleen said the same thing, but you see her anyway, so she's fine now.
No, she's not on here, but she's having
Yeah,
trouble.
she's there.
Colleen's
She's here.
in.
I'm here now, but I had trouble joining at first. I had
Okay.
to type in the meeting ID a couple times, but now it let me in.
Okay. All right, well, I'm glad we have almost full. We're just, like I say, waiting on Barry, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and we've got the agenda. I think I've sent it pretty much to everybody. Is there any type of corrections or additions or anything else? If there's nothing, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
All right, Julie made the motion.
Second,
Okay, Colleen seconded, so I've got to do the roll call. So I'm going to do Julie,
Yes.
Jess,
I,
Kevin,
Yes,
okay, Beth. I gathered that was an okay. Colleen,
aye.
all right, and the chair says aye.
Sorry,
So-
yes.
That's okay. I saw the head bob, so that was good too. All right, all right, so the agenda's been passed. The approval of the minutes from June 4th. I know I have one correction.
no,
I know,
no.
sorry. I think you did this one on purpose though, okay, just to see whether or not I read it.
Okay, what
Okay.
page?
Page 5,
Yep,
second major bullet. It starts off with wording in the funding application.
yep,
Okay, the next steps will be amended from the eligibility application considered for tonight's meeting, that the application bases the $570,000 figure on a
Oh.
5,000 per unit for the 114 units.
okay.
Okay, it's not 540.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
I know you did. Seriously, I do know that. Hey, Barry, welcome. All right.
I finally logged in.
And you know what? They make it difficult for you APAC people.
I changed my password and I forgot what it was. That was a
Oh,
month. That was a month ago.
okay, that would do it. That's the only correction that I did have, Jess. Again,
Okay.
nicely written. Did anybody have any type of updates, corrections? Okay, then can I get a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
All right, Julie makes the motion.
Second,
Colleen seconds. Let's get roll call. Julie,
Yes.
Beth. I gather that's a yes. Jess,
I,
all right, Colleen,
aye.
Barry,
Yes.
and Kevin. You
Yes.
move. And the chair says aye, so that's been approved. Okay. I verified some of the correspondence and invoices. We did get, Barry, we did get a state historical information booklet. It's probably about, I'm showing you, let's see, let me go this way, probably about that thick. So I will make sure you get it. It's from the state of all the
Okay.
different historical places. So we did get that. And I reviewed some of the bills and our dues with Carrie at Town Hall. So that pretty much was it. Anybody else receive any other type of correspondence or? No?
Nope.
Okay, all right, and that's good. I'm looking for, and I don't know, let me just check participants. Is Ken Martin here?
No, unless he's the call-in user.
Yeah. Can the call-in user announce themselves, please?
Hi, yep, here I am. Thank you.
Who's here? I mean, your name, please?
Um, uh, Katrina.
Okay, Katrina. Okay,
Thank
so,
you.
all right, because our new business was a funding request for the Air Housing Authority generator. And he's not here to present it. I know we've, spoken about this a little bit before in the past. I did do some research on the coalition site, and they have 22 projects for 19 communities that have been approved and have been, let's see, 3/4 of them have been completed in the different communities. So again, they're hopefully maybe he'll join in after. But I really, again, I think this is something that we need to look at. But he's not here to present. So with that, let me move that one out of the way. And we're going to go on to the old business, which I'm smiling at, being old business, but this is something good because you guys have really been plowing along. You made the Lowell Sun as well as the Sentinel and Enterprise with the announcement from the Affordable Housing Act for $10.8 million from the state. So congratulations.
Thank you.
10 point, what was it?
Pardon?
10 point what?
10.8.
And and just I need to make a correction. I see you're putting it into the record. The award, the initial award letter was for 10.5.
Oh, really? Okay.
We had anticipated 10.8. As it stands today, we're at 10.5.
All right.
Okay,
Excellent.
so we should refer to this as 10.5.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll record it at that and hopefully they'll get extra. All right, you all did receive the updated application. I can go ahead if we need to. I don't think I need to share it for those who are on Zoom. I know Pauline is here. I don't know what Katrina's background is, but they're calling, so they wouldn't be able to see the pictures anyways. Pauline, were you able to pull the information off of the website?
Yeah, I'm all set. I'm all set. Thanks so much.
Okay, Katrina. Great, thank you. Okay, so there have been, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more?
Madam Chair.
I don't know if it's going to be Connie or.
If I could just say a few words. Connie Sullivan, resident of Ayer, member of the Board of Trustees for Devon's Crest Tenants Association. And with me tonight is Rick Hankin from the Shaka Companies, the developer with whom DCTA has partnered with for our project. I want to thank the committee members again for taking time out tonight to meet with us. Rick is going to give the committee members some updates. We have a few things we want to follow up on as far as the application goes, and then certainly would be open to any questions that the committee members have. So without further ado, if I could turn the meeting presentation over to Rick Hankin, Madam Chair.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Connie. Rick?
Sorry,
Oh.
Madam Chair, can we just clarify if there's other members that are like part of the applicants team, or if because I'm just trying to anticipate if we've got members of the public or members of the applicants team.
Sure. If you're part of the applicants team, please announce your name.
Yes,
I'm
Bert
Dick
Rodiger
Bauer.
with Shaka
Oh,
Company.
all right, hold on, one at a
Speaking over each
time.
other, I'm sorry.
Okay, Dick?
I'm Dick Bauer from Mass Law Reform Institute, and we represent the Devon's Crest Tenants Association.
All right,
Okay.
Bert?
Bert Rodiger with the Shaka Companies.
Okay, Dan?
Dan Carlston, also a counsel for DCTA.
All right. Bill?
Bill Bowell from Devon's Crest Tenants Association and resident Devon's Crest.
Okay. Where did Matthew go?
Here I am. I'm a consultant to DCTA and one of the advisors to DCTA.
Okay. And Katrina, are you a member of DCTA?
Might just be watching.
Just member of the public. Thank you.
Okay, member of the public. Okay. All right. I think that's everybody. That help, Beth?
Sorry, issues with mute today. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, thank you, Rick. I'll let you continue.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, everyone. We're so appreciative. You're all starting to look like familiar faces. And yes, it's old business. We're like a bad penny. We just keep showing up, and we hope to succeed and to help and be important members of the community for a very long time, stewarding Devon's Crest. As it gets preserved, we offer long-term affordability and renovating the rest of the apartments for the existing residents. We've submitted a pretty detailed and thick package. And so what I'd like to do is just sort of maybe hit some high points and then answer any questions because that's what we presented was pretty dense and thick and pretty detailed. So again, would love to take questions, make sure that we've sufficiently answered whatever questions you may have.
Okay.
As Janet said, the really great news was an award letter for $10.5 million from the state, which was the linchpin to being able to complete this transaction. And I can go into more detail later, but the transaction will be funded in what is not a particularly traditional way, but this is not a particularly traditional project. This is existing housing. It's what we call naturally occurring affordable housing, which is critical to the town, to the Commonwealth, and a very cost-effective way to maintain and preserve affordability. So the linchpin to being able to buy this property, renovate it, and maintain it as affordable is the $10.5 million state grant. The rest of the capital sources will be somewhere around 14 million and change of private equity, and then a mortgage. I refer to it as agency debt, which is it's going to be a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac loan for somewhere around 15 million. So typically in affordable housing, you see low-income housing tax credits or other non-economic sources of equity. In this case, we've got an investor who's going to be contributing 14 million and change to the transaction. And so I'll come back to that in a second. But the good news is we got the 10.5, which was critical. Without that, we were not going to be able to consummate the transaction. We had a very good meeting with the trust last week. As some of you were on that call, and as you know, and we've scheduled another meeting, and we're hopeful that the trust will see fit to make a contribution to the project. We do have an investor. They're called National Equity Fund, and they are a national nonprofit who does all kinds of affordable housing. They syndicate low-income housing tax credits. They make bridge loans for folks trying to complete preservation transactions. And they've got one of the very few programs of actually investing equity for which they need a cash return as opposed to a tax credit return into naturally occurable affordable housing or other preservation type transactions. So we've got an executed letter of intent from them. So I said there are three main sources of funding. So the state is going to show up at our closing. We've got an investor who's going to show up with a check at our closing. And we're working through the process of getting a commitment for the Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac $15 million plus loan. So we're feeling really good about where we are today with respect to making sure that we've acquired all of the capital, or at least the lion's share of it, to be able to make the transaction work. I don't know how much you folks want me to go into sort of the background of how we got here. You know, as you all know, Brady Sullivan acquired the property in 2021 as a value add developer, which means find a tired property that's naturally occurring affordable housing, rehab it, and change out the tenants by doubling plus the rents.
It can be a high level because
Yep.
we've
That sounds good. But the short version is the tenants were amazing. The DCTA banded together. They marshaled the resources with a state earmark, as well as I think we're approaching $1 million of pro bono legal time to help with everything from stopping evictions, trying to find ways to acquire the property, and then putting out an RFP for a developer, which we are proud to have won that RFP to be the development partner. The high level of what's a complicated structure is that the goal is to maintain as many units in Devon's Crest as affordable as possible, and to ensure that those units are restricted to rents that are as low as possible within the constraints of the deal. And so along those lines, we are working through an affordability restriction, which will be a perpetual affordability restriction, and it will ensure that all 114 units are leased only to households earning less than 80% of AMI, and that the maximum rent for those folks will be 30% of 80% of AMI. And the rents will all include utilities. So some folks who have been paying, folks who will get, all include utilities. Of those 114 units, 35 at least, as currently underwritten, will be limited to occupancy only for families at or below 60% of area median income. And those residents won't pay any more than 30% of 60% of AMI. in order to protect the very low income folks, especially, those 35 units, it is anticipated, will get direct subsidy from the state in the form of MRVP vouchers. Those vouchers will live with the unit, so they won't be mobile. Each unit, once it's been rehabbed and the resident moves back, it'll get inspected, it'll pass all of its tests, and the resident will benefit from an MRVP, which says that regardless of their income, they pay 30% of their income toward rent, including utilities, with the state making up the difference to the market rent / reasonable rent. So unlike a tax credit unit where the resident pays 30% of 60% out of their pocket, no matter how much they make, here there will be folks making below 30% of AMI, and they will just pay 30% of their income. They won't need to come out of pocket for 30 of 60, even though that's the maximum rent that we'll be able to charge. As we sit here today, we've been getting questionnaires. We've sent questionnaires following the typical low-income housing tax credit certification program to get folks to tell us what their income is so that we can start to get an idea. And we think that there are, based on the returns we've gotten, there are about 38 of the 114 residents whose incomes are below 60%, with a goodly number of those, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, below 50, and a handful below 30. So with the MRVPs, none of those people will be displaced. And when and if they ever choose to leave, they'll be replaced by people who will benefit from the MRVP that remains with the unit. So it really is perpetual affordability, both at the below 60 side, and it's the MRVPs that will take care of the very low income families. So we're here, as you all know, asking for 570,000. That 540 was my bad. I misspoke. So that's on me. 570,000 from the town. And we understand that some of that would come from the Affordable Housing Trust and some from the Community Preservation Act funds, with the goal of using that money to increase affordability. And that likely would be using those funds to be able to take some 80% units and create a sinking fund to be able to pay the difference between 30 of 80 and 30 of 60, so that we can offer more units than 35 to people at or below 60% of AMI.
You want to take some of those 79 and make them into 60 instead of the 80%.
Exactly.
Okay. How many?
We don't know. My best guess is that we could do 5 or 6 units.
Okay. Thank you.
And we're running numbers, and it depends on our assumptions, and so we're trying to maximize and squeeze out every bit of extra affordability.
Oh, that Sounds good, being that part. If I can be so bold in asking with regards to the MRVPs, have you heard anything, from Secretary Augustus' office on that?
So we have a soft commitment. And that will need to coalesce into a firm commitment before we acquire the property. Because the investor needs those MRVP rents in order to make it worth their while to partner with us. And I will say, that they are a double bottom line. They are a nonprofit. The return that they're willing to take is way below what standard market returns would be. So, but they've got investors in their funds and they can only go solo.
Mm-hmm.
So to further answer your question, Madam Chair, the deal doesn't fly unless we get the 35 MRVP vouchers. The state's aware of that. And where they just awarded the $10.5 million grant, the likelihood of them not awarding the 35 MRVP vouchers for the project is slim. But until we get the firm commitment, we're just being cautious.
Understood. I think if you can go ahead and maybe you don't want to step on toes, but again, when we, if this moves onto a public hearing, if this goes, then from there, onto town meeting, that is going to be a major, question of whether or not, we have acquired those vouchers. So, I just thought, just reiterate it. That's all. Okay.
Point taken.
Understood. Thank you.
Well taken.
All right. And then, okay, go ahead, Rick.
No, I mean, I think I'm happy to open it up to questions. I mean, it's
Okay.
trying to simplify what we're trying to do as much as possible, given that there are so many nuances and there are so many push me, pull yous. But we're working through them all and are really excited about getting to the other side.
All right, that sounds great. Were you able to get a copy of the affordability covenant?
So our council, so we all in our council, as you have worked extensively with EOHLC, DHCD, and are familiar with sort of the Mass Docs boilerplate affordability restriction documents. And so in order to sort of expedite, I've been trying to get the state to assign counsel and start sharing documents. In order to expedite, one of our counsel took the EOHLC boilerplate and marked it up ever so slightly for the specifics of our project. It's being reviewed now by Dick and Connie and Bill and the DCTA team. And then we're going to make sure that it all sort of says what we intended it to say. And then we're hoping that we could, by giving it to counsel at DOHLC, they will start from that document and that will make their lives easier and then make our lives easier. So I don't think we're ready to pass that on yet. We're Connie, correct me if I'm wrong, we need the group to review it, and then we need to get it to the state. I don't know how, Connie, you would feel about, once our side is comfortable with it, sharing it with the town so that if they're gonna have any issues, maybe they get resolved before we start digging in with the state. I don't know. I defer to you.
That would be a great idea. That way we have all the comments incorporated into the document from both our team as well as the town, hopefully, for EOL, I can't pronounce the acronym, for the state to review and give its final blessing.
I think that they're going by HLC now.
Dyslexia doesn't help, I'll tell you.
It would be nice to, go ahead and get a draft and, give you feedback and everything. And then this way here, we know on how substantial, it's going to be for being anything, how do I say it? Just that it's got a good foundation.
Yeah, I will say Alicia was kind enough to pass around a draft of a restriction earlier this week for our team to review. It was a little bit different than what we needed for our project. So that's why our council ended up using one of the Mass Doc forms, if you will, and started to mark that up. But we probably have a few more days to kind of circulate that internally, and once we're done with that process, we'll get it to Alicia to pass on to the committee and the trust for their comments.
Right, that sounds great. Thank you. When you received the 10.5 million from the state, there must be some sort of contingencies that go along with it. Can you share those?
It will all be subject to executing all of the regulatory restrictions, inspection rules. It's contingent upon us, signing all the documents that clearly says what we're going to do and what we can be held to.
Is that in the award letter, Rick, or is that, well, those comments?
No, that we just know that from experience.
That's just in process when you get to closing.
Yeah. They're not giving you the check until you've gone through a 30-page closing agenda with all these documents and you've signed them all and negotiated them all to the extent they're just a tiny bit negotiable here and there.
But do they have anything in that award letter that states what they're looking for?
So the award letter was based on a preliminary one-stop application that we filed long ago and far away. And so that's what they were sort of using. And that describes the transaction, it describes the rents, it describes who the principals are, it had a construction budget. And so they award off of a preliminary one-stop, recognizing that, everything changes, right? Because, we had a construction number as a placeholder that we thought made sense. But now we've had our architects, engineers, and our internal people all over the buildings for months. And so now we're getting very close to what will be a final construction contract, right? And that'll be a different number from what was in the one-stop. Rents have changed, right? The AMIs have changed. So the rents that we said, when we said 30 of 80 was going to be X, it's now 1.042 times X. So it was all sort of in the original one-stop, all of the sort of big issues, the big deal parameters, which are mostly the construction. So what are you going to do to this property and how can you show us that we're going to be happy with the result? And then the occupancy income limits, and then the rents. And that's really the substance of it all. And then we're going to have a tenant selection plan, which my team is working on producing from past deals. We're going to need an affirmative fair market housing plan.
Affirmative fair housing marketing plan.
Yes, which is standard. We're going to have to get agreement as to the lease form that we're going to use, right? So all of that stuff is going to be in this 30-page closing agenda.
That would be, again, if we can be part of, the disbursement of that information, because these are things that will be brought up as questions. So if we can have the information, then we could go ahead and help answer it.
Yep, and again, I don't see any, I think that would be great. I don't see any issues with that at all. My team, I asked them earlier this week, and they're working on using from one of our other properties, right? Because we've got 1,000 of these things.
Mhm.
The tenant selection plan and the affirmative fair housing marketing plan, which we will then circulate to Connie and Dick and Matt and the rest of the and Bill and the rest of the DCTA team. We'll get their comments, and then I don't see any problem with sharing that stuff with you all as well.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, and I just have really one more because I want to bring it out to the rest of the team. I don't want to take over. But you mentioned in your presentation back in June that you'd have some sort of document to talk about site control. I didn't see anything in the documents that Dan sent on what type of site control other than, Shockit company going ahead and being the slash owner manager. And then after that, DCTA will then need to take over 10 to 15 years. So
Great question. So you should have gotten, and if you haven't, we'll get to you. I thought it was part of the package. We executed a purchase and sale agreement in March.
correct. I got the purchase and sale.
So that's the site control. So we have until at the outside, 60 days past October 10th to
Janet,
close.
I don't mean to interrupt Rick, but I think I'm hearing that Janet's idea of the term site control is meaning something different than you and I think the term site control means, Rick. I think she's
Probably.
talking about after we purchase the property.
Yeah, management. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Bert.
Beautiful. Sorry. Thank you. So after we purchased the property, Federal Management Company, aka Shockit Property Management, which is our wholly owned property management company, will take over management. We've got 50 years of experience. I think you would find, and I'm very proud of our record of operating mostly affordable housing throughout New England. A big.
Yep, I've seen your website. Yep.
Yeah. So we will take over management, and as I said long ago and far away, the two biggest objectives were, one, to maintain as much affordability as possible for as many as possible, and the other was for DCTA to own the property. And when Shockit was selected from the RFP, we went in thinking that there'd be a single closing, and at that closing, DCTA would own the property. Because of financing issues, because of our inability to maximize the value of the tax credits for a lot of technical reasons, because Brady had rehabbed 79 units and rented to people who largely are above 80% of AMI, it was impossible without going to this private equity structure. There was no way that we could get just sort of tax advantaged investments.
In other words, it precluded us from the low-income housing tax credits. But come year 10, we're trying to position the project so that it will qualify for low-income housing tax credits, and be able to put DCTA into the position of becoming an equity owner, if not by themselves, certainly teaming with a nonprofit or even with the Shockit companies.
Yeah, and we've done that, before. And Connie, just part of the deal is that DCTA will have a purchase option
at year 10, or just prior to the end of the 10th year, right?
Okay, so you will be there to help them.
Yes. So part of what we've planned to do, as Connie says, we're gonna do our very best to position the resident income profile to make it as easy as possible to raise low-income housing tax credit equity in the maximum possible amount.
What he means by that is we got to hit a minimum of 20% of the units being at 50% AMI or less, or 40% of the units being at 60% AMI or less. And currently we're near that, but we're not quite there.
Okay.
And so
We also,
the buy down that Rick was talking about earlier in the evening is very important to this project. And what happens 10 years down the line.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
what the beauty of this project is you'll actually have an affordable housing project where the tenants at least will have a say over, their housing, which is pretty unique.
No, for sure. I just, again, I just don't want, and again, Rick, don't take this the wrong way, but all of a sudden, everything is all hunky-dory for the 10 years, and then you step away. And we don't want to go through this all over again. So that's why I want to protect DCTA and making sure that somebody's going to be there to help guide them, at the next phase of this. Does that make sense?
So that 100%. And look, we would happily in 10 years use the structure that we thought we were going to use at the beginning. If DCTA still likes us, which I'm pretty confident they will, then we would happily partner with them. We would also happily stay on as property manager, regardless of what happens. We also have agreed that we will spend time working with the DCTA folks to help them understand sort of the ins and outs of property management and the ins and outs of tax credit syndications. So, if I would be thrilled to go for 10 years and then to help be part of the next deal where DCTA is the owner. That it's and as I said, we've worked. We work with a big national faith-based nonprofit in a similar way. We've worked with a couple of local CDCs, Alston Brighton CDC, Fenway CDC. We love working with nonprofits.
Okay, no, that sounds good. Like I say,
But we're not leaving anybody in the lurch.
That was just my concern.
We would manage it forever if folks wanted us to. That's our core business is property management.
Okay. All right. I'm going to open it up to the rest of the committee. Jess?
Just one clarification. So when, assuming the property is successfully bought this fall, Shockett would be the owner at that time for the next 10 years. Right. Okay. Just want to
Yes, it'll be, and again, if this is too much information, I'll shut up, but there will be a limited liability company that will own the property. Shockett or an affiliate will be the managing member of the limited liability company. So we will have control, and then we'll have an investor who's showing up with most of the cash equity, who will be a member of that limited liability company.
Thank you. All right.
But the warm body will be me. Okay, everybody's gonna be looking for me to sign stuff. Everybody's looking for me to make guarantees. I'm gonna be the warm body. So you'll be able to call me if there's any issues.
All right, you got that, Bill? All right. All right. Anybody else? Jess, anything?
No, nothing else.
Okay, Colleen?
Yeah, so I have a quick question. I also sit on the Affordable Housing Trust, so you'll kind of get where my question is coming from. So I know the funding from the Affordable Housing Trust would cover renovation fees for the 35 vouchered units. And if I understand you correctly, then the money you're asking for CPC would be to purchase some additional units. So I'm or to not purchase, but draw down so that we could add additional units. And I know that the 35 vouchered units will kind of come up 3 at a time. So would these additional units become available as affordable housing after those 35 units are rented? How would the timing of that work?
So I think what would happen is there are a handful of folks in the renovated units who are paying full market rent who make less than 60% of AMI. And so if they were willing, we would offer them, we will deed restrict you, right? You'll only pay 30 of 60, and the town monies will pay the difference to what you're currently paying. But you got to fill out paperwork and you got to income certify every year and all of that. Some people don't like that. Some people would rather pay a couple $100 more a month as opposed to, so we've seen all of this before. But so that would sort of be the first thing is, can we help people who already live there? Next, on turnover,
If we could just
when
back
somebody,
up, Rick, just back up for a second. So Colleen, when we had the meeting with the Affordable Housing Trust, I think it was Sean Copeland who actually suggested that the 175,000 go towards renovation costs. Rick and his company have really been working the budget even since that meeting. And what we think the budget is going to allow us to do is to have, and Rick, don't let me misspeak, but have the entire town contribution go towards making the project more affordable rather than targeting just renovation costs. So rather than the 175 going to renovation, it would go towards reducing an 80% AMI unit to 60%. So whatever funds come in from the trust or the CPC, we would target the funds the same way. Again, reducing the 80% units to 60% AMI units. Does that answer your question?
It does, but I think, I mean, when we left the housing trust meeting, I thought what we had decided upon, what we were going to bring to that public info session was, 5,000 per vouchered unit.
I think that's what it was, Colleen.
Right.
I think it was because we wanted to buy the vouchers. We wanted to help. When I said that, I remember the trust meeting, it's like the vouchers are important, and that helps the town having those project-based vouchers.
Part of that was our presentation and thinking we were going to need money towards the rehab portion of the project. And again, Rick and his company have been, sharpening their pencils and really digging deep into the budget. And as of today, we were discussing their confidence that they won't need town monies to help with renovations, and we can dedicate all of the town monies to reducing the 80% AMI units to 60%, which I think is, a big win for this project. And I think that's what the town, was kind of hinting at the very first when we met with the trust and the CPA as a joint body much earlier in the summer, that you'd like to see more affordability. And we're going to be able to deliver. So, and where the 175 is coming into play is we wanted to split whatever the trust or the CPA was giving us. That split's not going to be necessary anymore. We don't have to split it between project and affordability. We can put 100% all towards affordability. And I hope that answers your question.
I think this is all great news that we're able to sort of move towards more affordable units, whatever the mixture and the composition will be, and knowing that you're going to try to work the numbers towards that advantage as much as possible. I think it's just tricky in that given the timing and the situation of having market rate units, we just throughout need to make sure that it's very clear that all of the CPA and the trust funds are going towards, the affordable units and just, tracking that. It's just because it'll be the situation that we're in with having some market rate units
Well,
at the time of the
understand
acquisition.
what the town's been referring to as market rate units are really affordable units that are restricted at 80% AMI. We will not have quote unquote pure market rate units in the project. They'll all 114 units would be restricted.
In the state's view, 114 units will be eligible low-income or affordable units per the state's inventory.
And applying to Ayer's housing inventory. But it was my understanding that the tenants would be able to stay and pay market rate until there's a transition in the tenant, right? So that's the piece, I guess, that.
Yeah. So the state does not allow displacement.
Right.
So anyone over 80% can stay as long as they like. But they we can never raise their rent above 30% of 80%. Now right now, what they're paying is less than that, but at some point it could be higher. So the rents are capped at 30 of 80, and future occupancy is capped at 80%. But as long as folks are there and they don't want to leave, if they make more than 80%, we can't displace them.
And we have been getting income data from the tenants throughout the project, Beth. And we have tenants that are in those 80% AMI units that are in fact earning 80% or less of AMI. So they qualify as affordable units under the state regs.
Are all of them going to have to give you, once this affordability covenant goes into play, are all of them going to have to give you their income so that you know exactly where they are compared to the AMI?
Bert, can you answer that? Can we, once we're in the program,
Could
can
you
we?
repeat the question? I got a little confused on what she was saying there for a minute.
Those 79 units,
Yeah.
there are some that are below the 80% because they've given you the information when you surveyed them.
Oh, the incomes are below the 80%.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
What about the individuals that have not responded to the income survey? Do they have to respond? Because now all 114 are covered by the affordability contract.
We will need to attempt to gather income information from them. If they refuse, what we do, and I just use this as an exaggeration, internally we'll just enter into their income box $750,000 or something because they've not given us any information. So they would be treated as if they are very high income residents.
Interesting. Okay.
So it should not affect the allocation of town funds to 80% AMI units if in fact we're converting AMI units to 60% AMI units for tenants that are making 60% or less, right? AMI. So the concern about town monies going to market rate units, I just don't see that happening. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rick. We would allocate it to units where there's tenants earning 80% or less AMI, correct?
Yeah, and there's to the extent,
and we currently have those,
right? To the extent that those funds are going to buy down a unit, then the money would either go to somebody already living there, right, who makes less than 60, or on turnover of a market rate person, the next person coming in would make more than 60. So that money would go to them.
Less.
You know, I don't see any circumstance where over income tenants would benefit directly from the town investment. Bert, do I have that right?
Yeah, correct. They would be, again, as Rick said, if you won the lottery the day before we bought the property, you won't be forced to move, but you will also not get any benefits. You'll be treated as a very high income resident and have your rents set accordingly.
At the time of turnover, would there be a lottery? And like, who do we anticipate will operate the lottery?
This would all be addressed as part of our tenant selection plan, which we would create a draft of and could cooperate with the town on suggestions if they have preferences as to what they'd like to see. Some preferences are allowed by the state, other preferences are not. So we would have to work through that with you. Lotteries are expensive and cumbersome, so it's typical that you would have a lottery on the initial offering of a bundle of units. If there were, say, a bunch of vacant units, you would hold a lottery once and build a waiting list. After that, you would just continue to collect names on a waiting list. And that would really depend on the, how many people are coming in. We've had projects in the past where the initial lottery has drawn thousands of people and the waiting list is decades long. Other cases, it's a little more manageable where people come in and drop off and we just maintain a waiting list over time.
Yeah, my sense is, and we've got a whole team of folks who are really expert at this on our ops side, but my sense is that we'd probably post something announcing the opening of a waiting list and you timestamp them. In the tenant selection plan, we'll talk about that. Because again, as Bert says, we have 3 vacants now. So that's not, you hold a lottery typically when you're about to open a new project and you have 60 units. And then unfortunately, it's sad you get your 5,000 applicants for those. So that's how I think it will go. But there'll be a prescribed set of rules that will find the right rules for this situation. And make sure they do them, but we will maintain waiting lists. And we're exploring now whether it's allowed in the tenant selection plan to have 2 or 3 waiting lists. One for people between 50 and 60 for the MRVPs. One for people between 50 and 60, one for people between 30 and 50, and one for below 30. And thinking that might help to optimize the mix down the road. So we're thinking through all of this. And again, it's going to be part of what the state will allow, what the program will allow, and what makes sense. Again, with the goal of maximizing affordability and maximizing, low and very low income residency.
And
Does that make sense?
Haven't considered a preference for Ayer residents or families, in Ayer and things like that?
So
we would happily do that if it's allowed.
Yeah, this is part of the stuff where the state allows you to do certain things, but doesn't allow you to do everything. Part of our selection plan would obviously prioritize folks that are in the property today and categorize and prioritize for addressing, say, as Rick mentioned, people that are over 60, but living in, or under 60 rather, but living currently in one of the 80% units. So there's a whole number of things. The state does, on some programs, allow a limited local preference. On other programs, they do not. All of the local preference issues are complicated and limited, but it is possible to have a local preference in some cases.
We would definitely be open to that if you folks wanted it, again, assuming that it's doable. You know, in the old days, it was strictly verboten. I mean, you could never get a local preference. We've seen deals, Bert, right, where there've been some limited local preferences, and that's something that, you know, we will throw out, you know, when we start negotiating with the state, because the state theoretically will need to approve the tenant selection plan. Although I'm told that they never do. You send it in and you don't hear from them. But anyway, that just might be urban legend.
So
All right, thank you.
Quick question though, with regards to that, if all 35 are vouchered based, does that have to go through CHAMPS? You know, the state database system that the housing authorities have to go through?
I apologize, we don't have our operations folks here today, so there are certain cases where that applies and other cases that it doesn't, and it more typically is a Section 8 issue versus an MRVP issue, but it does all. So I don't know the answer to that. We can try and figure that out.
Yeah, you got me too.
Okay.
But we will ask that question. Thank you. Look, any traps you can help us run, stuff that's not going to bite us in the butt down the road. Thank you. We're very appreciative.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Julie? Barry? Kevin? Quick question with go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask for sort of a brief summary of the anticipated timeline because I don't think that has really been covered this evening.
Yep. So we are finishing our due diligence, and the last pieces are we've got to finalize our survey, which is a mess. Lots has happened.
Which survey
over the
is that? Which survey is that?
The land survey.
Okay,
There's 54 parcels, Jess.
Yeah.
right.
How many? I thought there were 37. How many?
37, I believe.
I think it is 37.
37?
Yeah, 37 parcels.
Sorry.
Get me nervous there, Connie.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
And
parcels.
stuff
and there's a
I'm
lot of
learning about survey nuances that I haven't seen in 30, 40 years in this business. Really fun. So we're finishing that. We're trying so hard to get folks to return their income surveys. And the Tenants Association has been so helpful. As we sit here today, looks like there's about 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like about 15 people for whom we have no information. We've got 38 folks or so who've filled out their surveys. So we have them having self-reported their income and family size. And then we've got a bunch of the newer tenants who haven't returned the surveys, but when we went through the tenant files, when they signed a lease before they had to provide income verification. So that's not exactly the same as signing a tax credit form under the pains and penalties of perjury. Here's what I make, but that was helpful. So we're trying to nail that down. But as somebody said, we've got enough below 80 and certainly enough below 60 and probably enough below 50 from the people who actually filled out the forms that the state will fund. The state is less concerned about the over 80s and how many there are because they know they're going to be stuck with some at closing and that we're going to be compelled to, on turnover, fix that. And then we're honing our construction budget. So we've iterated a bunch of times. We've had our contractors, our architects and engineers, our team out there for months. The architects are about to start drawing. The contractors are figuring out the logistics of how they're going to do it. They're putting their budget together. And we have until the end of the first week of October to nail down our funding commitments. So we're going to be pushing, to Janet's point, we're going to be pushing the state for the hard commitment on the MRVPs before then. We want to be done before then. We really want to close Halloween. The sooner we close, the better for everybody. We do have 60 days from the first week of October if we can't get through. And to the question of site control, in our world, site control is, do you control the property? And yes, we control the property until 60 days after October 11th. And if we haven't closed by then, Brady is free to say, see you later, and move on. So time really is of the essence. The lender's going to be ready because that's how long that takes. Equity is going to be ready. The state is ready with the big chunk of money. The state, I think, is going to be critical path as far as getting the documents drafted, negotiated, and agreed. So it's moved along about as we would have liked. Again, I wish the state had gotten us lawyers and documents a month ago, and it's not for lack of trying.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Beth? I know you do this, and in fact, thank you for your service in my town of Sudbury, those many years.
Thank you. Which does have a local preference, I believe, on some of their housing there. So
I'm on the board of B'nai B'rith Housing, so I was involved in Coolidge.
right. Wonderful. Great project. Really wonderful project. Yeah. Thank you. But no, yes, answers the question. And I think, just kind of considering the timing with town meeting as well as how quickly the state really has to get things together. So, let's yeah.
Yeah. So in our
on top
ideal
of
world,
everyone that needs to hear about that,
yeah.
I guess, in terms of the
in our ideal world, and this is why we sort of talked about, if everyone will recall, splitting, having a contribution from the trust and a contribution from CPC. Mm-hmm. We realize that if all goes according to our plan, you're not going to be able to write a check from Community Preservation Act funds till after we close. But the nuances of the trust mean that we could get a commitment and money at closing before then. So there's two pieces. The state is always looking for a show of local support. And to be able to say, we've got X in the door and we're expecting Y the second week of October or the third week of October, or I forget when of November.
October 27th.
Yeah. So the show of support that's necessary, but probably maybe not sufficient, but necessary to keep the state marginally happy is that first actually committed fund. And then we would make representations that we're doing our best. This is what we're expecting. This is what we're hoping for. And I think the state would be fine with that. I think the state would be quite unhappy if we told them we thought we were getting something and it didn't come through. But it's town meeting. God bless New England. We don't control it.
You got it. You mentioned something. If I can, Beth, you all set? Okay. If I can just on one of your attachments, attachment C as in Charlie, with sources and uses of funds. I've got a quick question on there because when you were talking about construction and with it being semi-funded by the state, do you have to do your labor rate, the market rate for labor? Do you have to, bid it out and all that, or?
Go ahead, Bart.
I think what you're referring to are the Massachusetts prevailing wages.
That's the words.
Laws.
Thank you.
That only applies to certain sources of funds, and it's my understanding that it does not apply to the sources of funds that we have here. There's also a federal version of that called Davis-Bacon, which also applies to certain funds, but we don't believe it applies to the funds we're using here. So that is part of the reason that we feel we've got a little extra funding to cover our construction costs than we had previously, because we had been assuming previously that some of those rules would be applying to us. And that would have been soaking up extra funds that we could now use to pour into improvements to the property.
Okay. All right, and then this is just my own personal question, all right? There is a Shockett CM fee. What does the CM stand for?
Construction management.
Thank you. That's all. Okay,
So, Madam Chair, if I may,
yes,
as is hopefully been clear from tonight's meeting, where we're waiting for the state to assign an attorney to, they'll have to provide docs, review docs. I mean, what we're envisioning is any commitment by both the CPC and the trust to have contingencies. Number one, that we close the deal. Number two, that we have an affordable housing covenant restriction that's been reviewed and satisfactory to the town as well as the state. So I think the homework really is, if I may, aside from deciding whether to commit funds to the project, but number two, coming up with what that contingency list is going to consist of.
correct. Yeah, and I know that's one thing that the group here will go ahead and discuss, meaning the committee, of what are some of those contingency items. Like you're saying, the affordability covenant, the
Tenant selection process.
the selection process, but also to the MRVP, just some sort of formal, letter saying that even though it's a verbal, saying that it's going to be guaranteed, things like that. So I agree. That's what we're going to go ahead and do. And and moving on, I'm just going to open it up to, we've got two members of the public. If there's nobody else from the committee that has any questions.
I do have just one.
Go ahead, Jess.
So it sounds like you're hoping for 175,000 from the trust. So on the application for CPA money, that mentions 570. So are you really asking just for 395,000 from CPA funds?
The difference, yes.
Yes. You got a bargain today.
Yeah.
But, again, I'm just gonna, if we want to discuss, what was it, 395 you said?
Yeah.
It's like, is that gonna help try to get 5 or 6 units down to the 60%? So, but yeah, that'd be the difference.
Yeah, no, I just wanted for clarification, because what we're voting on here is what to send to town meeting just for CPA funds.
Right. We're going to have a public hearing in between, we're going to
Right.
vote on that first, whether or not this moves to public hearing.
I know, but just to clarify what figure we're dealing with either tonight or at the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. If there's nothing else from the committee, I can open it up to the public.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I'm Dick Bauer. As I said, I'm from Mass Law Reform Institute and represent the Devon's Crest Tenant Association. And you had earlier asked Mr. Henkin how many units could get bought down from 80% to 60%. And as he indicated, we don't know exactly. We have not finished calculating what the actual cost is for each one of those buy downs. But what I wanted to emphasize is that the biggest thing about how many units will be how much money the town puts in from the trust and from the CPC. The money that the town puts in is going to go for affordability, and the more money that gets put in, the more units can get bought down.
Correct. That would be like what would be feeding that sinking fund.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But if the town wants more, all it has to do is ask, and we will be happy to have more units at those lower rents to make them more affordable for lower income people.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Dick. All right, like I say, I'm going to open it up to the public. Pauline, I see that you are no longer on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't figure out how to raise my hand anymore. I don't know if it's a function of the particular website we're on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, good. I am not going to ask a lot of questions. I just want to make 2 points. As you know, Janet, I'm very involved with Habitat for Humanity, and they subscribe to the AMI for their mortgage holders who buy the properties. You all have talked tonight about 60 and 80% of AMI, which confuses the public no end, myself included. And AMI changes yearly, if
Correct.
not even sooner. Would it be possible for when the proponent brings this forward again or speaks again, not just speak in terms of percentages, but numbers? Because that's really what possible tenants are looking for. And that would be a suggestion.
Good suggestion, Pauline, because
Thank you.
that's one of the notes that I have to get that from Alicia.
Appreciate that. And we all know rents change based on size and I guess size of unit or income level. And I think that's also something important for potential residents to understand. It's not 60 or 80% of their income. This is what it's going to cost you a month to live there. And then the last thing that I didn't write down, so I apologize if I don't get my notes correct. I'm curious about the vouchers. This is something I haven't really delved into. So if a potential tenant can't afford a $1,200 rent, the state is proposing a voucher for X percentage of whatever the difference is, or perhaps you could not answer that tonight, but elaborate on it more in detail the next meeting or when the public hearing, because even I don't understand that.
So let me just see if I can again just I think very simply, under all of the voucher programs, and there's lots of them. There's some federal, there's some state. Under all of the voucher programs, the resident pays 30% of their income toward rent, including utilities. So if you make $1,000 a month, you pay $300 a month. And the voucher, whoever the voucher issuer is, the state or the feds, makes up the difference between the tenant portion and reasonable market rent.
Fair enough, and I appreciate that explanation, but is that tenant then eligible to seek assistance from the Affordable Housing Trust in Ayer?
No. Once they are on a voucher program, I believe, Colleen, you can correct me, but I believe that's one of the things they ask is, are you already on a voucher program? Because then that would be double dipping.
And I appreciate that, and fair enough. I just think we need to make this publicly clear because I don't think people are thinking this way. But anyway, thank you, Janet. You've answered my questions. I'll leave you to finish the meeting.
Very well said. Thank you. That's really good advice. And just one quick thing that we don't mention very often. We're planning to convert 6 units to fully 2025 handicapped accessible code compliant.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
And I think that's really important. And again, we don't highlight that, but that's part of the program.
And there will be a separate waiting list and a separate selection process to ensure that, if possible, those go to people that need them rather than just anyone that shows up.
all good information, none of which I ever heard before. So thank you so much.
That's good.
Can I just add, Pauline, when you, on the bottom of the screen where you see audio, video, participants, and so on, the button in the middle that says react with the heart above it, that is where you find the raise your hand.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Jess. Quick question, Rick. When you talk about utilities, all right, that they're also going to be, included. What utilities? I'm just curious.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
so the state, the local housing authorities calculate what's called a utility allowance. And so, for example, this and it's all utilities. So in many properties, the landlord pays utilities, in which case it doesn't matter to the residents. In some, the residents pay for some and the landlord pays for the rest. Here, the tenants are going to pay for all the utilities. Brady Sullivan is converted to all sorts of separate metering for everything. And so when the 35 units are rehab, they will be converted as well. So when we say that again, somebody makes $2,000 a month, 30% of that is 600. If the utility allowance is 400, they'll pay 200 to the landlord and 400 to the various utility companies. So that their portion includes, Dick, do I have this right? Their portion includes utilities. And when you calculate a 60% rent, and Pauline, this will be instructive. The way that we're looking at it right now, based on current numbers and current published utility allowances, if you go to the HUD tables, you will see that a 60% 3-bedroom rent in Ayer is 2,445. That's 30% of 60%. We won't be able to charge a 60% rent any more than 2,445 less 496 for utility allowance. Now, it doesn't matter for the 60% units because they will have vouchers. But on the 80% units, it matters, right? A 3-bedroom. So does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Because it is confusing as hell, utility allowances and how all that works.
So it's an allowance. It's not like, okay, you don't have to worry about any heat. You don't have to worry about the air conditioning. You don't have to worry about cable. Or
It's
you know,
a fixed dollar amount towards utilities.
You need to pay your
fixed.
bills directly to the utilities, but it comes out of the rent you pay us.
Okay.
Yes, I mean it's all factored into how those rent setting amounts are set. But if someone had a unit where they put 8 air conditioners in the windows and let them run 24 hours a day and got a $700 electric bill, they'd have to pay the $700 electric bill. These are averages and set formulas to generally allocate a number so that the tenant is in theory paying with that government set rent and an amount equal to what everyone else would be paying in that category. But if someone's very stingy and lives on 1 light bulb, they're going to pay less. If someone runs 10 air conditioners, they're going to pay more.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. So that was my last one there. All right. Anything else? Katrina, any questions? All right. If there's nothing else, because I'm hearing crickets, I'm going to see if I can get a motion to move this to a public hearing. It's one thing I do need to look at because September's meeting would be September 3rd. And when is Labor Day?
September 1st.
Okay. I would like to still have it, the meeting on September 3rd. I don't know if the committee, if you guys are going to be around, with Labor Day. You're going to be okay? All right. Julie be okay. Colleen be okay. Beth be okay. Kevin, I'll be okay. Jess said she was okay, right?
I wouldn't be if you moved it another week.
Understood that. I wasn't even going to bring that up. So that's why if we can try to do it, then that gives us a little more time. How about your committee, Connie and Rick?
If you moved it another week, I'd have a hard time too.
All right. No? Okay, then. So can I get a motion to move this to a public hearing so I can get the announcements out onto the newspapers in time?
On September 3rd. Yep.
September 3rd at 7:00.
So moved.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so Jess made the motion and
Seconded.
Beth, I thought Beth seconded.
Oh, I thought Beth said so moved. So I said seconded, but that's okay.
Oh, no, okay, whatever. Jess, you got it?
Sorry, Jess.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll do Beth and Julie.
You can change it. You just tell me what needs to happen.
Now Beth and Julie, sounds good. We have to do the roll call. Julie,
Yes.
Barry,
Aye.
Beth,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Colleen,
Aye.
Kevin.
Yes.
And the chair says yes. So we will have a public hearing on this on September 3rd. And I will go ahead and work with you, Connie, to make sure that whatever documents are, we're going to move, change some of the documents maybe, or add additional ones so that we can have all the documents ready to go for that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee members.
Okay, thank you very much. I tell you,
If
a lot of work, but it's going
if
to be
we can
worth it.
just kind of create the paper trail and clarify the requested amount from CPC that should be in the public hearing, that is like sent to the chair at least in an email kind of thing.
Correct. They're going to get the update from the trust at the end of, I believe, the end of the month. They'll be able to get some information. Is that right, Colleen? I think you guys have a meeting the end of this month.
Yes, we have a meeting on the 27th to sort of finalize things. And then we don't have to have a public hearing, but we will have a public information session on September 10th about the funding request to the trust.
Does that interfere with CPC deciding on a fixed amount, or could we just leave it as a higher amount and then adjust at town meeting to a lower amount?
I think that's the better of the two.
Right.
Yeah.
After hearing the uncertainty with the trust, that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can keep it at the 570,000 for now, and then can clarify that, if the CPA portion of it will be decreased at some point.
So would it be my understanding, Madam Chair, then you do not need an email because we've got the 570 requested in the application?
That would be
Yeah.
fine, but I want it, if you guys get any more of the other documents, like the affordability, the draft of the affordability contract or the tenant selection plan, the draft on that, it would be nice to have that.
Get it to you. We'll do.
I'm pushing my team to produce that, and we will make sure that we circulate it to DCTA, and I know that the tenant groups and the lawyers will respond quickly.
All right, we definitely want that state to respond.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, as an old HUD guy once said to me when I was trying to get him to do something, he said, "Rick, if you don't like doing business with this government, go find another one."
Oh, well, I tell you what, having that affordability, the Affordable Housing Act does help out a lot. So
It does.
you got it. All right. Again, thank you very much. And we will be seeing you September 3rd.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. You too. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. Thanks. All right. And moving on with the agenda, we've got public comment. Didn't know if there was anything else from Katrina or Pauline.
I think it's better to let people raise their hand and ask for attention rather than pointing a spotlight.
Oh,
Some
okay,
people
no,
just
no
like-
problem.
Some people
All
just
right.
like to watch.
Yeah, and especially now since you pointed that the reaction one is where the little heart is. All right,
I'd
no
just
problem.
like to ask a question that occurred to me after, but I'm wondering if Alicia has been sharing any questions that she has or comments that she has through this process, and whether she attends the trust meetings, and like just from my understanding and making sure that staff who are really involved in the affordable housing issues in town are for sure being heard as well.
Yes, Alicia comes to the trust meetings and, has been participating in those meetings around the funding requests.
Okay.
And to add to that too, Alicia has been meeting with Robert as well, to be sure, to get involvement with town council.
Okay, great. Good to hear. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, and let's see, hold on. Oh, I just want to make an iteration too that anybody from the public who is watching this on Apex YouTube, if you do have any questions, please contact Carly Antonellis and she will get in contact with me and we'll get you your answers that you have. Again, just reach out to her and we'll go ahead and get you an answer. All right, thank you. I think it's 8:30, unless there's something vital in a committee report.
So on the new business for the generator,
Ken, I will get in
You just-
touch with Ken.
okay.
Okay. So with that, all right.
I
and,
guess, Janet, can I just share one quick housing trust update that Sean Copeland was elected as the new chair of the committee?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you. And Jonathan Krantz is the planning board member.
Is the new planning board rep.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, wait a minute. New PB. So Sean Copeland is the new chair of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yes.
Okay.
That's because Jeff stepped down from planning board. So he
Right.
had to step down from the trust.
Yeah. So there's an Affordable Housing Committee and then there's the Affordable Housing Trust. I just want to make sure I have the right one.
I'm still the chair of the committee. All right. Okay. If there's nothing else for the committee reports, then can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I'll
I'll
second
second that.
All right, Barry seconds, and I think we can just say aye.
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 All right, you got it.
Aye.
Hi Denise. Bye Denise. The meeting's over.